Good afternoon. Hopefully this new microphone is working perfectly, because I had some troubles with the microphone this morning during an interview with the Wealth Boomerang show. And after I was posting some updates about that, I was checking Facebook, and in the business groups a lot of people whinge about how much tax they pay, and some people whinging about, I pay so much tax, I wish I could control my tax more, which you can by just choosing a different structure rather than being a sole trader or an individual. You can choose several different types of structures, and that will actually minimise or reduce your tax, or sometimes take it down to 5% or 2%. And there was also someone who made a comment about, I wouldn't mind paying tax if it actually went to the right people. And someone said, who's the right people? You know, is it the politicians? Is it the corporations? And this person said something about the money was being used to fund a left-wing socialist agenda or something like that. I'm not really political. I don't know my left wing from my right wing at the best of times. And I unenrolled myself to vote a couple of years ago, as I don't believe that the politicians actually have much control over what's going on in the world as much as the business people do. When I first started my first business was back in 1991, 92, somewhere around there. And I was in financial planning, and there was no superannuation, no compulsory superannuation back then. It came in the following year. And it was great, great idea. People thought, okay, now I can save for my retirement. My boss is going to help me out. It's not all up to me, and I don't have to retire on the pension. But then after a couple of years of having the superannuation, people became upset because if you worked for one company, you had a good super. If you worked for another company, you didn't have such a good super. And some supers were performing very well, making lots of money for the people invested in them, and some were doing not so well. And some people said, hey, look, we want choice. We like this superannuation thing, but we want more choice. And a couple of years after the compulsory superannuation came in, they actually brought in the choice of funds legislation, which was also very exciting. And as a financial planner, I just thought, okay, people just want the funds that bring them the most money. They want to invest into superannuation that gives them the highest returns. And I was very surprised when there was a lot of people out there who actually weren't chasing the highest returns. They were chasing superannuation funds that were invested along with their ethical and moral guidelines. Now, for me, as a pure capitalist back then, I invested into gambling, I invested into legal brothels, I invested into all sorts of vice and impure things because those things were making money, mining and that sort of stuff. There were some people out there who wanted to invest into socially sustainable things, environmentally friendly things, wanted to not particularly invest in alcohol or tobacco or firearms or any of these sort of things. And that was great. These people had their choices as well. Whether you're a capitalist, whether you're a hippie, it was good to have the choice of where this money of yours was going to be invested, even though you couldn't touch it sometimes for 50 years. Now, I think that's an awesome parallel with the choice of taxation. And so it's not just about reducing your taxation and saying, okay, how do I get from 49% down to 2%? But also, wouldn't it be great if I actually had a say in whether the funds were used for defence or whether the funds were used for the local community? Perhaps you're passionate about education, or I don't know, whatever social causes you're passionate about, building more schools, libraries, that sort of stuff. Because some of the taxation funds are used for empowering the community. Probably around about 20 to 30% of what the government brings in is spent on enriching the community, but a lot of it goes on perhaps arguably wasteful things like lifetime pensions for politicians and big expense accounts for politicians, and possibly I'd argue with the term of defence. I'm all for protecting our country and protecting your borders and things like that, but if you're going to a foreign country and blowing up some people based on the assumption that they were probably going to come and hurt us, then why don't you just go to the poor areas and blow up their houses, because they were probably going to come and burgle you at some stage. So invasive wars, and of course the war on terror, the invasion of Iraq that was based on false information, I'm not really supportive of those kind of things. And you don't have to agree with me, that's okay, but whatever you're passionate about, whatever your cause is, whatever you feel most strongly about, wouldn't it be great if you had the choice? You could actually say, I want my tax dollars to go to this, I want my tax dollars to go to that, and put it into those things. I've just found a little rope swing here, which is awesome. Sit in a rope swing under a tree. Probably hurt myself. But my point is, and I do have one, that you can have this choice. You can actually say, I want my money to go to this, I want my money to go to that. There are people out there who legally pay 2% tax or less. Famously, there's Apple and Facebook and a lot of these companies. The rope's making cracking noises, that's not good. These companies don't pay very much tax, they do it legally, and they have the ethical thing. So Google, for example, does a lot of good work in the community. We have Google Maps and all of the Google products, which are mostly free, Google Earth and things like that are given away. And Apple obviously helps a lot of people, does a lot of good work in the community. You've got Bill and Melinda Gates and these kind of guys. Again, whether you agree with them or whether you don't, they're making the choice to vaccinate children and to do what they do. And it would be great if you could get behind whatever cause you're most passionate about, start putting your tax dollars towards that, rather than just letting it go into the hands of the politicians and they decide what's best for you. So that's, if you want to get involved, just send out a tweet, Facebook, hashtag, something like that. Say, taxation choice taxation, tax is optional, and you can have control over it, reclaim control, and you can finally make a big difference in your world with controlling where your money goes. Chat to you soon.